And what park am I calling you from?
Yellowstone.
That's right, Yellowstone National Park. Raise your hand if you've ever been to Yellowstone National Park before. Anybody? No. Excellent. So this is all new for you. Have you guys learned a little bit about Yellowstone yet?
There's bears.
Excellent. Would you mind maybe calling on a couple people and seeing what they learned? How do I say your name, Mrs. Musone?
Yep, you're right.
Miss Musone. Excellent. So I was just wondering what you guys have learned about Yellowstone and what you know about it so far.
Okay. William, want to come on down? Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm William.
Hi.
Yellowstone has a lot of geysers.
That's right, William. We do have a lot of geysers, and I'll tell you a little bit more about those as we get started.
Okay. Katie? Okay. Move back a little bit. Okay. Let me know who you are.
My name's Katie, and I know that Yellowstone Park is protected.
That's right. We are protected under federal law as we are a national park.
AJ? AJ, you might be better off coming this way.
How many students are here in this class today?
Kassir, how many of us?
Whoa. 24?
24. Actually, we're down to 23. We have one child who's out today.
Oh, okay, 23.
Hello, my name is AJ, and what I know about Yellowstone is that if you see a bear, the rule y'all to stay 100 feet away.
Not 100 feet, 100.
100 yards.
100 yards, that's right. Good one, AJ. That is really important here in Yellowstone. Give the bears their space.
Do you want to do one more?
We can do one more, and then we'll have some time for questions at the end as well.
Ellaby? Okay, let her know who you are.
My name is Ella, and I heard that if you see an elk, you're supposed to stay 25 yards away from it.
That's right. That's a good one as well. We have really big bison and elk here. We want to give them their space. Definitely. So thank you guys. Sounds like you've learned a good amount about Yellowstone National Park already. And now we're going to learn a little bit more. But first thing first, what does it mean to be a national park? I wanted to show you guys. This is our logo. You can see it on my sleeve. Any national park ranger will have this on their sleeve. And it shows you basically what's protected in national parks. And we could start with the wildlife, which is represented by this animal. Do you guys know what animal that is?
Okay. What kind is it, Caden?
I'm Caden, and it's a bison.
That's right, Caden. Excellent. A bison, sometimes people call it a buffalo, but bison is the more scientific term. So that represents all the wildlife we protect. We also have a little body of water here, a lake, and that represents all of the water we protect. It could be a river, a lake, or the ocean. We also have a tree representing all of the plants we protect in our parks. A mountain representing all the landforms from mountains to valleys, canyons. And then finally, the shape as a whole. Does anybody recognize what this shape represents?
Anybody?
What shape?
The shape
This whole shape here.
Brandon? Oh, come on.
Hi, my name is Brandon, and I honestly think that looks like a shark tooth.
Ooh, good guess, Brandon. It's actually kind of shaped like a shark tooth. It's supposed to represent one of these. Have any of you guys seen these before? Know what these are called?
Kevin, do you know what it is? No? Okay. Do you want to take a second guess, Brandon, since you're already here?
Looks like one of those things that they use on the arrows.
Exactly. It's an arrowhead. is what we call it. So they're made by humans, right? By Native Americans. So the shape represents the human history that we protect in national parks. Excellent. So where you guys are in Pennsylvania, you actually have a lot of parks about human history. And I think you're pretty close. Are you pretty close to, let's see. I have a couple I wanted to show you. Are you kind of close to Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you have one called King of Prussia. That's a historical park that you could visit. And I'm going to share my screen with you. So here we are. This is a national park website showing you all the national parks in Pennsylvania. Can you guys see that? Can you see the screen I'm sharing?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So here you go. You can see Pennsylvania has 18 national parks. And you can see 9 million people visited the national parks in 2013. And there's at least $477 million economic benefit from national park tourism. So national parks can be really important in every state. So I hope you get to visit your parks in Pennsylvania. But over here in Yellowstone, we're a little ways away from you, and I wanted to show you on a map. Have you guys looked at a map to see where we are yet?
We looked at that exact map, actually.
Excellent. I think it's pretty neat to see how far we are. If you drove, it'd be 31 hours. You'd break that up into several days, I'm sure. And it's over 2,000 miles. If you flew into West Yellowstone, it would be about an 8-hour flight. So that's great. I'm glad you've looked at this map already, just to see we're almost on the whole other side of the country from you. But that doesn't mean you won't visit us one day. I'm sure that many of you will be able to come out here to Yellowstone, at least I hope so. But at least you know there's national parks in your backyard as well. But here at Yellowstone, what we're kind of famous for is being the world's first national park. So in 1872, Yellowstone became the world's first national park. And the main reason for this protection, the main reason people wanted to protect Yellowstone, was because of these special features that you guys have already mentioned that include the geysers. Alright, so we have these really neat features we call hydrothermal features. Hydro for water, thermal for heat. And some of them are geysers. So you can see this is an older photo when people used to get a little closer to Old Faithful. We make sure people don't get too close to Old Faithful anymore so they don't get burned by the hot water, and to make sure they don't hurt Old Faithful, because you could step through and change Old Faithful on accident as well. But does anybody have a guess how tall Old Faithful can be?
Old Faithful.
Pardon me?
Oh, the geyser's name is Old Faithful, so that's just the name of the geyser. Does anybody have an idea how tall that is, just from looking at the picture?
So look at the little people at the bottom. So they're
Yeah, here.
So a person's about 5 or 6 feet tall. What do you think?
It's probably
Let's listen.
half a mile.
Ooh, good guess. Let's see. So Old Faithful can be anywhere from 100 to 150 feet high in the air. So a way to think of that is if you were in a big building that was 15 stories tall, that would be about 150 feet. So if you've ever gone up an elevator 15 stories, that would take you up about as high as Old Faithful. It's not the tallest geyser in the park, though. We do have a taller geyser, and it's called Steamboat Geyser. And it can be up to 300 feet, so double Old Faithful. So let's think about geysers. Why is the water coming out of the ground like that? So if we think about it, you guys ever taken a hose and put your thumb on top of the hose so that it sprays out and can go farther?
I don't know
And
if you can see
sprayed somebody with it?
Yeah.
Has anybody ever done that? You can raise your hand if you've done it. All right. Most of us have done that, either to spray somebody or to spray a car if we're washing a car. So you're making more pressure. By covering the hole of that hose, you're creating more pressure and the water's coming out and it can go farther. So the same thing's happening with Old Faithful and all the other geysers. I'm going to show you an image here. We've gone down and looked at the pipe beneath Old Faithful underground. We stuck a camera down there and we went down. You can see the feet, how many feet we went down. And you can see that we kind of tried to draw out the pipe. So there's this narrow pipe, but then it gets really narrow, just under 20 feet. You get a really narrow section. So that's creating a lot of pressure. So just below that, you get these bigger sections where water is able to build up. And when it hits the narrow section, it can't quite fit through. So the pressure builds and builds and builds until you get an eruption. So Old Faithful is one of the most popular geysers because it erupts so frequently. It erupts about every 90 minutes. So if you came to Yellowstone and you sat by Old Faithful for 2 hours, you'd see it erupt, right? Because it erupts about every hour and a half. So if you stayed a little over 3 hours, you might get to see it erupt twice, right? So it's pretty faithful. We can usually count on it to erupt about every 90 minutes. Now, besides geysers, we have some other cool features in the park. And here is a picture of one of these. Isn't that cool? This is what we call a hot spring. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of a hot spring before.
A hot spring.
Hot spring. Raise your hand if you've ever gone swimming in a hot spring before. All right, so some of us, when we think of hot springs, we think of the kind we go swimming in. They're warm but not too hot. Well, here in Yellowstone, they are really hot. They're past boiling or boiling temperature. Have any of you ever boiled water on the stove before or seen your parents do it? Yeah? So if you've seen boiling water, you know not to stick your hand in it, right? Yeah, that would not be a good idea. You would get burned. Same thing here. This water is boiling temperature, so you wouldn't want to jump in this water, would you? No way. It is really hot. It is boiling. And just to give you an idea how big this is, can you guys see this? This is a little pathway. That's a little pathway, and you can almost make out there's some little people walking on the pathway.
Those little dots are people. Those little specks.
Tiny little specks, yeah. So this is a really big hot spring in the park. It's called Grand Prismatic Hot Spring, and it is huge. So we have several different kinds of hot springs in the park, and these are different than the geysers because these don't erupt water into the air. They're just like big pools, right? So under the ground, their pipes are open. They don't have a narrow spot where the pressure is building.